The air was thick inside the summit hall in Accra, Ghana. Hundreds of global leaders, students, and journalists sat on the edge of their seats. Cameras were rolling. Phones were raised. The energy, electric. On stage stood Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young leader of Burkina Faso. His voice, firm but wounded with truth, echoed through the room. "I speak today not as a president but as a son of a continent long misunderstood," he said. His speech hit like lightning, exposing injustice, colonial greed, and the painful silence of the powerful. He spoke of forgotten villages, young children without schools, elders dying without medicine, and the fire in African hearts that refused to be extinguished. Every sentence felt like a heartbeat, every pause, a protest. The audience didn't clap immediately when he ended. They just stared, moved, frozen. Some held back tears, others looked down, ashamed. Then, a standing ovation. Raw, thunderous, lasting over 5 minutes. And just as the applause reached its highest point, something strange happened. A figure walked quietly through the crowd. No introduction, no announcement. Barack Obama. Yes, him. He was walking directly toward the stage, and no one knew why. Security stood still, confused, unsure whether to intervene. The former U.S. president kept walking, slowly, almost too calmly, his face unreadable. Eyes locked on Ibrahim Traoré, who remained frozen in place, still catching his breath from the powerful speech he'd just delivered. The room had shifted. The air became thinner. The camera crews scrambled to zoom in. Secret Service agents whispered into their earpieces. Some members of the audience gasped. A few thought it might be political theater. Others feared confrontation. Obama reached the stairs to the stage. A security guard moved forward, but hesitated. He didn't dare touch him. Obama, dressed simply in a navy blue suit with no tie, stepped onto the platform. The clapping stopped. Dead silence. Ibrahim's face was calm, but his eyes, they were searching. Obama walked closer, 1 step, 2, 3. People held their breath. Then, without a word, he extended his hand, not for a shake, but for something else. Then, he bowed his head. The audience gasped again. This wasn't politics. This was something else, something raw, something ancient. And Ibrahim Traoré wasn't ready for what would happen next. Obama leaned in, not for the microphone, not for the cameras, but just close enough that only Ibrahim could hear. He whispered a sentence. Just one. Ibrahim Traoré's eyes widened. For a second, he looked like a boy, not a soldier, not a president. A young man who had just heard something he never expected. His lips trembled. He blinked hard. The crowd couldn't hear it, but they saw his reaction. He took a step back, like someone had pulled the ground from under him. His hand went to his chest. He looked away, trying not to cry. Obama stood still, head still slightly bowed, waiting. Then Ibrahim looked back at him, not with confusion, but something deeper. Recognition. Traoré stepped forward, and to the shock of everyone, he embraced Barack Obama. A long, tight, silent embrace. The room erupted into quiet sobs. People began crying without knowing why. A journalist dropped his pen. An old woman in the front row whispered a prayer. And somewhere, a child watching the live stream whispered, "Is this peace?" But no one, not one person, could have imagined what would happen next. Not even Obama, not even Traoré. As Traoré and Obama stood locked in a silent embrace, camera shutters clicked like thunder. Every news outlet was broadcasting the moment, but none of them could capture what was really happening. It wasn't politics, it wasn't planned, it wasn't even expected. It was something raw, real. Obama gently pulled back from the hug. His hand lingered on Traoré's shoulder, a gesture of quiet brotherhood. They exchanged a glance that carried more weight than words ever could. Then something strange happened. Obama turned toward the audience, but instead of speaking into the microphone, he looked directly at a young girl seated in the front row. She couldn't have been more than 9. She was barefoot. Her school uniform was worn and faded. She stared at him, unblinking. Obama stepped down from the stage, slowly, and walked to her. "May I?" he asked softly, holding out his hand. She nodded, too stunned to speak. And then, in front of the entire world, Barack Obama sat cross-legged on the floor beside her. The room froze. The cameras tried to find meaning. But the truth? This moment had already gone beyond meaning. It had entered history. Her name was Awa. She didn't expect to be here today. She had walked 3 kilometers just to see Ibrahim Traoré speak. Her mother packed her roasted maize for lunch. She had never seen Obama in person, only on her neighbor's broken television. Now he sat beside her, not above her, not behind a podium, beside. "I saw you crying," Obama said gently. Awa looked down, embarrassed. His speech reminded me of my brother. Traoré, who had stepped down quietly, knelt too. "Tell us about him," Traoré said softly. The crowd listened. Awa took a shaky breath. "He died last year, in a mine. He worked to pay for my school. He was only 14. Gasps rippled through the room. Obama closed his eyes. Traoré reached for her hand. "I'm here," she whispered, "because he believed we could change this." Tears rolled down Traoré's cheeks. Silent, deep. And Obama? He didn't try to fix it. He didn't give a speech. He just held her hand. It wasn't politics anymore. It was pain. It was love. It was real. And the audience? They were no longer watching a summit. They were witnessing a turning point in human history. Awa reached into her small satchel. Carefully, she pulled out an old photo, creased, faded by time and sun. "This is him," she whispered. His name was Ibrahim too. Obama gently took the photo. His hands trembled slightly. "Ibrahim," he repeated, his voice breaking. Traoré looked at the picture. The resemblance to his own younger brother, who died when Traoré was still in school, was haunting. "He looks like my brother," Traoré murmured. The room was no longer a summit hall. It felt like a shared living room of grief. Obama reached for the mic, not to speak to the world, but to speak to one little girl. "To every child like Awa, and to every brother like hers, I have failed you before. We have all failed, but not today." He looked at Traoré. "Let's change what it means to lead. Starting here, starting now." And then he handed the photo back with a quiet promise. "I will carry this photo with me, everywhere I go." Awa cried silently. So did everyone else. Even some of the world's coldest diplomats wiped their eyes, because in that one small photo was the face of every forgotten child. As Obama helped Awa back to her seat, something slipped from his jacket pocket, a folded cloth, small and worn. A security aide reached for it, but Obama shook his head and bent to pick it up himself. He unfolded it slowly. It was a handkerchief stitched with the name Malik. Traoré noticed. Obama noticed him noticing. "My father's name?" Traoré asked, confused. Obama paused. "No," he said gently. "My best friend's." He looked down for a moment, then continued. "He died in Liberia in 1993. Volunteered as a nurse during the Civil War. I wasn't with him when he passed. But this," he said, holding the cloth up, "is how I remember who I serve." The hall went silent again, this time deeper, almost reverent. The cloth was stained, not with blood, but with time, memory. Obama folded it carefully and tucked it into Traoré's jacket pocket. "Now you carry him too," he said. Traoré blinked fast. He didn't speak. In a world ruled by microphones and megaphones, the two men shared a truth without sound. And the crowd. They weren't just watching two leaders. They were watching wounds touch wounds, and begin to heal. A woman stood up slowly in the middle of the audience. She had been quiet all day, head wrapped in blue, hands folded tightly in her lap. Now she stepped forward. She didn't have a badge, no press pass, no translation earpiece, just a letter in her trembling hand. Security moved, but Obama raised his hand. "Let her come," Traoré said. The woman walked to the stage with slow dignity. Her name was Mama Esther, a farmer, a widow. She had buried 2 sons, one from sickness, one from a border conflict in 2021. She handed the letter to Traoré. He opened it, hands shaking. It wasn't written in English or French. It was in Mooré, his mother tongue. He began to read it silently. Halfway through, he stopped. Tears ran down his face. Traoré turned to the audience, eyes red. "She wrote this letter 3 years ago," he said. "It says, if I ever meet a leader who truly listens, I will give him my son's final words." Obama stood behind him, gently placing a hand on his back. Mama Esther stepped forward and whispered. He died whispering, "Tell someone to keep fighting, even when it hurts." And in that moment, the hurt in the room became holy. As emotions swelled in the hall, a small commotion began at the far left of the crowd. A boy on crutches, no older than 12, was slowly making his way forward. His left leg was gone below the knee. He wasn't on the program. He wasn't supposed to be here, but something in him needed to move. A woman tried to stop him. He shook his head, kept going. Traoré saw him. So did Obama. They stepped aside, creating space. The boy climbed the stairs one slow crutch at a time. The world watched in complete silence. He finally reached the stage and held out a small, rusted object. It was a bullet casing. "I found this in the field where my brother died," he said. His voice was thin but steady. "I kept it because I thought someone important should see it." Obama knelt beside him. So did Traoré. "What's your name?" Obama asked. "Solely mine," he replied. Traoré took the bullet gently. And then he handed the boy something of his own, a medal from his own military jacket. "You're the brave one now," he said. And the boy, for the first time in years, smiled. The hall wept, not from sadness, but from hope. In the back corner of the hall, nearly hidden behind equipment, sat a man in a simple gray shirt, the official translator for the event. His job was simple: repeat every word spoken in English or French into a headset. But by now, he wasn't translating. He was crying. His name was Moussa Doumbia, son of a deaf mother from Ouahigouya. He had learned 5 languages just so he could give her the world through his voice. He had trained his emotions to stay flat. But as he watched Obama kneel before a disabled boy, as he heard Traoré say, "You are the brave one now," he dropped the microphone. The broadcast team panicked. But Moussa didn't care. He stood, took off his headset, and walked up to the front, not toward the leaders, but toward the microphone. And for the first time that night, he spoke not to translate, but to testify. "I have translated thousands of words. But today," he paused, "this is the first time I believe what I'm saying." The room fell still. It wasn't just a political event anymore. It had become a living truth. After Moussa's moment, the entire hall went quiet. No music, no cameras flashing, just breathing. Some delegates reached for tissues. Others simply sat back, overwhelmed. Then Obama did something strange. He stepped away from the microphone, walked toward the edge of the stage, and sat down, cross-legged, on the floor. Traoré looked at him, confused, but followed. 2 of the most powerful men alive now sat on the ground, facing the audience. And then, Obama whispered, "Let's give the world 1 full minute of real silence. Not political silence. Not awkward silence. Sacred silence. The audience hesitated. Then slowly, people stood. Phones were lowered, hands folded, heads bowed. For 1 full minute, the room was still. No spin, no strategy. Just people remembering the boy, the mother, the cloth, the bullet casing. One woman in the crowd whispered, "This is peace." And somehow, in that silence, more was said than in 1,000 speeches. Some cried, some prayed, some forgave, and a few, for the first time, hoped again. As the minute ended, a sound pierced the stillness. A paper fluttering from the balcony above. It landed near the stage. Security rushed forward, assuming the worst. Obama waved them off. Traoré picked it up. It was a folded letter, slightly crumpled. No return name. Just the words. "If this reaches you, I'm grateful. I never got to say this before I left for Mali." The handwriting was uneven, like it had been written on the back of a truck. Traoré opened it. Obama leaned in to read with him. Inside was a message from a U.S. soldier stationed in Africa. His name was Evan Carter. The note read, "I once believed we were sent to save others, but after watching you, Ibrahim, I think we're here to learn. Your courage gave me back mine. If I don't come home, tell my family I saw something beautiful here." Traoré looked up, eyes full. Obama's hand gripped his shoulder, and behind them, Evan's mother, sitting quietly in the third row, burst into tears. The room stood again. The world was changing, and the moment wasn't done yet. As the letter from the soldier was still being held in Traoré's hand, a voice broke the silence. I knew him. Heads turned. It came from a woman standing quietly at the edge of the hall. She was in her late 60s, wearing a simple blue scarf and holding a photograph. Security moved toward her, but she raised the picture and whispered, "Please, I just want to say thank you." Obama signaled for the guards to stop. The woman stepped forward and handed the picture to Traoré. It showed a younger Evan Carter, smiling, sunburned, holding 2 Burkinabe children in his arms. "I'm his mother," she said, her voice cracking. "He used to write me about Burkina Faso, about a boy who shared his bread with him, about a speech he heard from a man named Traoré." Everyone turned to Ibrahim. "He said you gave him hope that maybe our world wasn't broken, and if he didn't make it back, I should find you." Traoré froze. Then slowly, gently, he took her hand, placed it on his chest and whispered, "Your son is still alive, in all of us." And the entire room wept. Obama hadn't said much since reading Evan's letter, but now, as Evan's mother cried beside him, he stepped forward again, quietly, gently. He looked at Traoré and said, "You remind me of someone." Traoré raised an eyebrow. "My mother," Obama continued, eyes distant. "She was a woman who believed in showing up, not for cameras, not for power, but for people who couldn't speak for themselves." He looked at the crowd. Then he did something no one expected. Obama removed his watch, a simple silver timepiece his mother had gifted him during his college years, and held it out. "This watch got me through my hardest speeches, my loneliest nights, and my biggest doubts." He handed it to Traoré. "From one servant of the people to another, this belongs with someone who hasn't forgotten what time it is." Traoré stared at the watch in disbelief. And then, in a moment that would circle the globe, he knelt, not for Obama, but beside Evan's mother, and clasped her hand. Obama stepped back. And the crowd? They didn't cheer. They couldn't. They just stood, faces wet with tears. History was no longer being written. It was being felt. Just when it felt like nothing else could add to the emotion, a phone rang. It came from one of the event staff backstage. He looked at the screen, confused, then hurried to Traoré. "It's from Mali," he whispered. "The peacekeeping base. Traoré answered, unsure what to expect. Then, the entire hall watched as his eyes widened. He turned on speaker. A doctor's voice came through, shaking. "Mr. President, we found Evan Carter." Gasps erupted. Obama leaned closer. "He's alive?" The doctor explained. A local man had carried a wounded American soldier across miles of conflict zones. He was in critical condition, burned, weak, but breathing. He kept whispering something, the doctor said. Everyone leaned in. "Traoré. Peace. Thank you." The mother collapsed into Obama's arms, sobbing. Traoré couldn't speak. His lips trembled. He placed the phone gently near the microphone and whispered, "Hold on, Evan. You've started something bigger than war." For the first time, a room full of global leaders cried openly. Tears became rivers. Enemies became brothers. And the world, in that fragile moment, remembered what it meant to be human. Traoré held the phone close, barely able to speak. The hall remained silent, thousands of eyes on him. The line crackled faintly. Evan was still alive, but barely. Time was slipping. Obama gently placed a hand on Traoré's shoulder. Then slowly, Ibrahim walked to the microphone. His voice, though low, carried the weight of centuries. "Some fight with guns," he said. "Some fight with policies. But this young man fought with love." He turned to Evan's mother, who stood trembling beside him, then to the cameras, to the world. "I will not let him die alone." The crowd leaned forward. "I will fly to Mali, not as a president, as a brother." You could hear gasps. Obama stepped in. "You won't go alone." The two men, once divided by borders, years, and the weight of history, stood together in silence. And then Traoré whispered something only Obama could hear. "If this world has any hope left, it starts with us." Obama nodded. And in that fragile moment, two leaders became more than politicians. They became human. Within hours, the jet was in the air. No suits, no speeches, no press team. Just Traoré, Obama, Evan's mother, and a small medical team. When they landed in Mali, there were no red carpets, just a dusty airstrip, a humble ambulance, and the whispers of villagers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. They reached the hospital quietly. Nurses bowed. Soldiers saluted without orders. Inside, Evan Carter lay still, connected to machines, eyes closed. His face was pale, burned, barely recognizable. But he was breathing. Traoré took his hand gently, like a father would. Obama stood at the foot of the bed. Evan's mother wept silently. Then something happened. A flicker. Evan's fingers twitched. His eyes opened. Weakly, he whispered, "Traoré, is that you?" Everyone froze. "I saw your speech," Evan said, voice cracked and faint. "I knew. I had to stay alive, just to hear the end." Traoré couldn't hold back the tears anymore. He leaned down and said, "You are the end. You're the proof that love survives war." The machines beeped softly. But Evan was awake, and the world had changed. The next morning, a photo was released. Not by a news agency, not by a politician's team. It came from a nurse. She'd taken it silently, unable to believe what she was seeing. The photo showed Barack Obama holding Evan's left hand, Ibrahim Traoré holding Evan's right, and Evan's mother resting her head on her son's chest. There were no speeches, no slogans, just love, raw, real, rare. Within hours, the photo went viral. People around the world posted it with captions like, "This is what leadership looks like." No words, just tears. He didn't just speak, he showed us. At the hospital press room, Traoré made one final statement. He held up Evan's letter, now laminated. "This story isn't about me. It's not about Obama. It's not even about Evan," he said, voice trembling. "It's about all of us. choosing love, even when the world teaches us fear. He paused, then looked straight into the camera. If this moment touched your heart, don't scroll away. Leave a comment, say something kind. Hit the like button if you believe in peace. And subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the idea that we can still change the world, together. The room erupted in silent tears, and the world listened. Like this story? Comment one word you believe the world needs more of. Tell us what moment made you cry, like if you believe in peace. Subscribe if this reminded you of the good still left in humanity. Because this wasn't just a video, it was a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, you saw yourself in it.